Good day, Bashar.
And a you good day.
Thank you for talking with us today, and I appreciate all the help that you've given.
It is our pleasure, thank you, and our appreciation for the co-creation.
I have some heavy questions that have come to my attention, and I wanted to get a
Heavy questions.
heavy questions.
All right.
I do understand this is a 3D virtual reality, and we're actually in a secondary matrix that exists for our use as a soul-based entity.
Yes,
as
in a sense.
Sort of a soul cage that we get to do these.
Well, you've
exercises.
created it, yes.
And I've been told from various sources that the reincarnation process has come to a shutdown and is not happening anymore.
Well, first of all, there's no such thing as reincarnation.
Okay. Well,
Because that's an illusion of the space-time framework. Since everything exists all at once,
right.
all lives exist at the same time, some of them just in a vibrational framework you call the past. But you are making connections to those other people, those other lives that exist simultaneously with you. You're making those energetic and informational connections from the present, as are they from their present, making such connections to you and others. So the idea of reincarnation is the illusion. The actual mechanism is multiple simultaneous incarnations that you make present-day connections to download information and experience from those other lives, those other people that are existing at the same time you do. You as a person have never been them. They as people will never be you. Now you might from a higher level, the oversoul level, say, well, I'm an extension of that oversoul. That other person is an extension of the same oversoul. Therefore, from that level, I can say, as the oversoul, I can say, I have both of these lives. But as a person, since you're already an extension and so is that other person, a simultaneously existing extension, you can't say that one would actually reincarnate as the other, because the first person never, in a sense, actually ever goes away.
Okay, I understand.
Is this making some sense?
Yes.
All right, so the idea that the reincarnational cycle is coming to an end or has stopped is exactly the idea of realizing that it never existed to begin with in the way you thought it did.
Okay.
That's why it has stopped. Your realization is now caught up to the understanding of what the mechanism actually is. You've modernized your definition of it, brought it into what you call your 21st century, and let go of the outdated, mythological, old-fashioned, medieval concept.
All right. Well, that's good.
Yes.
Well, I was made aware that this specific matrix, the one that we are all sharing right now,
Yes.
is coming to a conclusion.
Well,
Is that
the
accurate?
idea of the old cycles are concluding and you're going into new cycles of more positivity. Because you have, in a sense, for the cycles you wanted to experience, for the themes you all chose to explore, you have kind of reached the end of the negative cycles. That's why you're seeing so much negativity popping up in the world around you, such an accelerated way, because as we have said, you're getting it all out on the table, because there's no more time left to experience these things the way you used to. You have to get it all out of your system so that you can move on to something different. You have to make choices based on the worlds that you actually prefer to experience now, and that's why you're really starting to physiologically split into different parallel realities. You may still be able to look across the aisle and see other realities you're no longer in, but a physical split has begun. And just because you can see a reality that is a different parallel reality from the one you prefer doesn't mean you're living in it anymore. You're actually just observing it at a distance from the parallel reality you are now in.
Okay. Okay. I have recently omitted the use of meat in my diet, and I've noticed a big jump in my frequency.
Yes.
And
For some people, it will work that way, yes.
And my intuitive abilities have skyrocketed.
Of course.
And
as you refine or increase or accelerate your frequency, those will be the natural symptoms that go along with it by whatever methodology you believe is correct for you.
I've also invoked a statement that I've revoked my soul contracts and all karmic debt.
There's no such thing as karmic debt.
Okay, well then that's not a problem anymore.
No, it's not. All you're saying is, I have simply made an agreement with myself that I will choose as best as I can to remain in balance.
Okay.
That's it. That's all you're doing. And you are also realizing in saying, I have revoked your soul agreement, all you're saying is you have also consciously begun to realize that in this particular life, you can actually change your theme.
And that's what I want to do. I've exited my what I would call my life script. I'm writing it as I go.
Yes.
That's my goal.
Yes.
And one of my biggest intents right now is to get financial freedom. And
Again, remember what we said about abundance.
Right,
Don't
right.
get stuck in the idea of the money being the only way.
Right,
Yes.
but having financial means will provide me a great amount of tools that I want to do.
And how do you know that those tools can't come in other ways? Again, you're insisting there's only one way you can imagine them happening.
But it's extremely effective.
All right, if you want to insist on slowing down, that's up to you.
Well,
You're actually resisting a more effective method.
so there is a better path that I'm
There is a
not
more
seeing.
effective method, and I have just described it to you. Open up and be willing to allow other forms of abundance to be there if they need to be. If financial wealth does turn out to be, for specific circumstances, the most effective method to bring you the tools you need, then that is what will happen. But if it's not happening that way, you have to relax your definition and understand that that may be a signal there is actually a more efficient, more effective way. Be open to allowing it to manifest in your life, or you will shut the door through which a more effective way might come, just because you're not willing to recognize it as the idea of abundance.
Being specific to the path that you can see in me, and I know I'm speaking to my higher self.
Yes.
Can you give me some clues?
I just did. I gave you the biggest clue I can give you. You need to relax your definition about the concept of what you need to be effective in your life. You have to let the machine work. You have to let the toolkit work. When you're talking about effective tools, the most effective tools are the ones that are already built into the toolkit of excitement. That is, that when you act on your passion to the best you are able, with no insistence or assumption as to what the outcome ought to be, and I mean none, then you activate the toolkit. The tools in the kit are that your passion becomes the driving engine that moves you through life. It contains the organizing principle of synchronicity that shows you exactly what you need to do, in what order, and when, and that makes you most efficient. It becomes the path of least resistance that allows you to move through your life in an effortless way. It becomes the path that connects you to all other expressions that are relevant for you in life of your joy, your passion, and excitement. It becomes the reflective mirror that reveals to you anything within you as a belief that might be out of alignment with your excitement, so you can identify it, see that it makes no sense to hold on to, let it go, and add that energy to your excitement so you can continue to accelerate. And it becomes whatever form of support or abundance it needs to be to allow you to continue to efficiently act on whatever it is that is true for you, that is representative of your passion. It is a complete kit. It contains everything you need. It leaves nothing out. And all you have to do from that point forward is simply choose to stay in a positive state, no matter what the result may be or look like from the actions that you took from within your excitement. That's the entire instruction manual. There is no more to it. There is no addendum. There is no table of contents. That's it. That's the entire instruction manual for how reality manifestation works. So that's all you need to do.
So what you're saying is I'm too narrow in my view at this point.
That is what I'm saying. You need to broaden your definition so that more of the automatic machine can work for you more effortlessly, instead of constricting the pathway through which it gets to you. By insisting that it can only be this way, therefore you will only recognize this as valid, therefore leaving out a lot of the rest of what could be validly working for you in an extremely effective way. Because here's the thing. What you're experiencing is the idea of the ego mind thinking it knows what needs to happen. Your mind has no idea what needs to happen. You think you do, but you don't.
So I need to just let it go, is what you're saying.
You need to surrender, and surrender not meaning you give up control. You need to surrender to the control you already have.
Surrender the methodology.
The idea is to go with your own flow, because you already have a flow, you already have a current, and the current knows exactly where you need to go. It will never lead you astray. The only way you can, in a sense, land on the shore that is not correct for you is by swimming against the current and not going with the flow. And swimming against the current is simply resisting the natural self, trusting that your life unfolds automatically in exactly the way it needs to. Even if you manifest something at the moment you don't prefer, objectively don't prefer, it's still got to be there for a reason you do prefer. That's how you use what you don't prefer in a positive way. So even if something crops up and you go, well, objectively, neutrally, I recognize, I observe, that is not what I prefer, but there must be a reason it's here. Let me stay in a positive state so that I will be able to intuit what that reason is and use it in a positive way, because I know that by staying in a positive state, I can even springboard off things that I don't prefer in the direction I do prefer.
A stepping stone is what you're saying.
Absolutely. Everything exists for a reason. Whatever's going on in your life at this moment is there for a reason. If you use it in a positive way, you will see why it is there. Sometimes it can be as simple as manifesting something you don't prefer just in order to give you clarity about the difference between what you don't and do prefer. That's reason enough sometimes for something you don't prefer to manifest, just to give you clarity on what you do prefer by contrast.
So if I follow this approach, which I will do.
Thank you for catching yourself.
My goal is to attain an earlier retirement.
Excuse me.
No goals. My plan.
Excuse me.
My will.
You can plan a little bit, that's fine.
Okay.
But remember, your plan has to contain an ability for the plan to be dropped and changed. So have a plan, but allow the plan to be flexible enough to change the plan if necessary, according to what needs to happen. Because when you plan too much, when you have too rigid of a goal, then it becomes the conditions and the insistence that we're talking about, and that means you are now voiding the actual principle,
and it creates
that
block.
would work for you.
Creates blocks. Okay.
Yes.
So from this new knowledge that you've given me, what is my probability of success?
The awareness of the knowledge, the probability is 0 or 50-50. The application of the knowledge, 100%. But watch your definition of success, because it may contain conditions that will once again reduce the probability. We, by definition, generally remind all of you, quote unquote, that if at first you don't succeed, redefine success.
That sounds like a cop-out.
It's not. And the fact that you say it sounds like a cop-out means that you're working with negative definitions. Because you can come up with a positive reason for that, because you know we would not have suggested it were there not the possibility of looking at that concept in the positive way. So when you say it sounds like a cop-out, that means you're already coming from a negative definition of that phrase.
So I have some work to do.
Yes, you do. But that's fun. That's the challenge. That's why you're having a physical life. In order to experience the process itself, remember, if you want to talk about a goal, the process is the goal. Not where you think you're going to go. The goal of having a life is to experience transformation from one state to another. The process is the point. As many people on your planet say, the journey is the destination. So live in the moment, stay in the moment, work with what's happening in the moment. That's the whole point. That's your goal, to be here now, not to get somewhere else, to be here now. If you simply allow yourself to be here now, you will find very quickly you will be some other now, much faster. Because it can only happen in the now. When you set your sights on too far of a future, you're not living in the now, and it remains where? In the future.
I always try to insist on being present as much as possible.
But it's not an insistence, it's choice.
All right, one final question.
Yes.
I heard a statistic which was quite startling, and I wanted to get your confirmation.
Ooh, a startling statistic.
Yes. I've been told that the ratio of people on this planet that are soul-bound, in other words, they have a soul, a fractal of a soul in them.
What does that mean?
Well, in other words, it's 5,000 to 1. In other words, for every single person who has a soul in their body.
The soul is not in your body, but go ahead. I understand
there's
what you
that
mean.
connection. There's that connection to source self. The
Yes, yes,
high
yes.
source self.
Yes,
The ratio of human beings living on this planet
yes.
is 5,000 to 1 that has a soul source connection. The other 4,999, the ratio, are basically soulless entities, or soulless beings just playing out their life path, their script in order to play the game that
And
we're
what
in.
would be the point of playing out the script if there's no soul connection?
They are basically part of the puzzle for us soul players to have this experience.
So what you're saying is they're just part of the illusion that you're projecting, and they're
Correct.
not actually people in the same concept.
Correct. Is that a
You
correct
can
statement?
do that, but the idea is how would you tell the difference?
You really can't.
And therefore, what's the point of talking about it?
I found it an interesting statistic. In other words, when those people die, they don't go anywhere. They're just recorded in the Akashic
But
record.
that's
and
because you're
it.
saying they're not people.
They're like robots. They're
Not robots, they're not
organic,
people, they're not anything but projections of your consciousness.
but they're organic representations of beings that
But
supposedly
physical
we interact
reality
with.
is an illusion anyway, so what difference does it make how real they look?
Or you're making me go in circles.
Yes. Because in a sense, it's a pointless question.
But if I interact with another person who's also soul source connected, there's real meaning there.
There's real meaning in all of it, because you're the one creating the meaning anyway.
But there's more meaning with those.
No, there is not. You
They're
see how you like to qualify things?
Yes.
Stop doing that.
Okay.
And fundamentally, I know this may also add a little bit more confusion to you, but fundamentally, the answer to your question is no.
No, as in.
No, that doesn't really exist in the way you're describing it.
So it's a matrix game that's
Yes.
being played on me.
Yes. Well, not played on you. It's part of the idea of the exploration of consciousness, and it gives you an opportunity to examine things that you also believe about yourself.
Okay.
So it's an opportunity to decide whether or not there is some truth in that experience or that description for you or not.
All right.
That's really what it's about more than anything. It's not about, is this really accurate as a statistic? Because remember, your reality changes moment to moment. Nothing is static, it's all dynamic. I could say in one moment it's an absolutely accurate statistic, and 5 seconds from now I could say it's complete bunk. And both will be true. It just depends on where you're at and what you choose to experience of the reality that you choose to be aligned with. Anything you can imagine in some sense is real, because you cannot imagine non-existence. The only real question is that the way you want to define the reality you prefer to experience? It's up to you. Does it work for you as an idea? Does it work for you as a permission slip to think that way? Yes, no? It's up to you. It's all real in one context, and in another context, none of it is real. Does that help? Or does it make you go in more circles?
Yes, it's more circles.
Then that was the point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good day to you, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
So excited to be here right now.
Oh, all right. So excited you are there.
So. All right. I am very excited about playing music. I'm a
Yes.
musician.
Yes.
And I'm very excited by the idea of creating kind of like a gateway or portals to higher consciousness
All right, well,
through music.
what's stopping you?
Nothing necessarily.
Oh, all right. So what you're saying is you are doing that.
Yes.
Yes.
And I want to do it more.
Well, what's stopping you?
Doing it more, I guess.
You mean not doing it more is stopping you? Doing it more wouldn't stop you from doing it more, obviously.
Yeah, I guess so.
So you're saying you're not doing it as much as you would prefer to?
Yes.
Because what's stopping you?
Nothing's stopping me, actually. I'm doing it. I just want to do it. I'm wondering, my question is if you have something that would help me do it more powerfully.
Yes. Oh, you want me to tell you?
Yes.
Do you believe you can do it more powerfully?
Yes.
Then what do I need to say?
I don't know. I was just thinking, like, maybe in your interstellar travels you'd encountered.
Are you telling me that you've come to us knowing everything you need to do, but you've decided to ask us in case you're missing something?
I don't know everything that I need to do.
You don't?
I know the big chunk.
Isn't that enough?
I guess. I mean, it's enough. I'm still curious, though. I want to know what you think.
Oh, you're under the impression that you're missing something.
Maybe.
What about the idea that you're missing nothing? Is it possible for you to actually believe that? Maybe what you're missing is the ability to believe that you're not missing anything. How's that?
Touche. I like it.
We know that many people on your planet worry a lot that they're missing something, and in fact, the only thing they're missing is that they're worrying that they're missing something. So stop missing that.
Okay.
Pay attention to the fact that all you're doing is worrying you're missing something when in fact you may not be.
Okay.
How about this? Since you know, we assume, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt, that you know that excitement is a complete kit and leaves nothing relevant out, right?
Right.
So that if in fact you just move forward in your life and there was actually something you needed that you were missing, wouldn't it actually tell you what that was?
Yes.
Then that means you're missing nothing if you know that.
No.
Because even if you're missing something, it will tell you what you're missing, and then that means you're not missing anything.
Okay.
Because you will have it when you need it. Even if you don't have it now, maybe you don't need it now. But when you become the person more and more that you prefer to be, you will have everything you need, everything that's relevant for you, exactly, precisely, perfectly, when you need it. What more do you need than getting something exactly when you need it? Why would you need it before you need it? Why would you get it after you need it? If you understand how the mechanism works, you will know that you will get everything you need exactly when you need it. And therefore, in a sense, even though you may not have it now, you will have it when you need it, which means you have everything you need.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Was that music to your ears?
Yes, and maybe I need some more information regarding something slightly related.
Like what?
Wondering if you've said that if you imagine something, it's real
Somewhere, somehow.
Okay.
In its own context, in its own terms. That doesn't mean it's real in your physical reality experience.
So I've imagined either it could be a parallel Earth
Yes.
or some other planet where
Yes.
music is essentially like the central ideas that the society is based around.
Well, there's actually several civilizations we're aware of that function in that way. Yes.
And I was wondering if you could give us some stories or explain something.
Certainly. There is a civilization we're aware of where, well, I'm going to describe the beings. It's going to probably sound a little bit odd to you, but don't take it quite too literally because we're just creating an analogy that you can understand. Yes? Mm-hmm. All right. So imagine, if you will, a kind of a drum. Yes?
Yes.
Now imagine that the drum has 8 legs. and it can move around. And when it needs to communicate, it goes thump, 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 thumpity thump, 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 thump. But these thumps resonate with an amazing amount of resonance, harmonics, different chords. You understand? Mm-hmm. And all of the beings communicate this way, and the idea of resonance is a fundamental part of who and what they are. Everything is expressed that way in this amazing symphony of these kinds of instruments they have within their body biologically that allow for the creation of all sorts of amazing complex patterns and harmonics to happen in percussive ways. It's an amazing civilization to visit. And it's amazing just to stand on their world and be immersed in the vibrations of all that resonance. It does things to you.
So music is just everything, everywhere there. That's
all
how
they
communicate,
understand
that's
are
all they know.
variations of resonance, variations of tone. Both what you would call on larger scales and on more subtle scales. And like us, in a sense, what might seem a simple note to you, to us actually sounds like multiple harmonics. To them, it's 10 times that, 20 times that. They can hear things in the simplest note that you would only think is a single note, that to them might be an entire symphony. It's really quite immersive. The thing is that when you stand among them, they actually have the ability to impart a little bit of that to you because they are somewhat telepathic. Therefore, their vibrations go, in a sense, right through you and entrain you a little bit to go along with those vibrations. And after a while, you actually begin to understand their language. But understanding their language is not just language in the way that you use it. It's music in the same way that listening to a symphony might transport you in your imagination to various realities and various experiences. It's more like that rather than some of the simple concepts that words might attempt to convey. It's much more of a holistic, full-bodied experience to listen to their language, to be immersed in their language. They're actually, in a sense, telling stories as they talk. It's just built into what they are. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Did you visit that place as Bashar, or did you have other incarnations? Or?
Yes, I visited it as myself.
Uh-huh.
I do have, or have had, in your terms, an incarnation there because the idea is they were one of my first contact experiences.
Huh.
And in all of our first contact experiences, we always choose out of an incarnational experience in the society, so we will have something to draw upon so that we understand the society more deeply. Otherwise, we'd be too alien to each other. So having an incarnational experience in their society gave me some understanding of the basics of their society, but I've also been there as myself, yes.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes. One more question.
Yes.
Do you have the ability to scan me? For
I'm always scanning.
Okay. Can you tell me how many negative beliefs I have?
Talk about opening yourself up. 5,487 and a half. Now, do you believe me?
That's less than I thought I had, so thank you.
Then I guess you must be doing pretty
I
good.
guess I'm doing pretty good, yeah.